Hi, Community Works. I'm the enrichment teacher, Kristine, Miss Kristine. I do fashion design teaching, fashion illustration, and sewing. Today is another fashion illustration lesson and learning how to make flats. Flats are actually flat drawings of the garments that you actually design, or you draw it in croquis form for your portfolios. It is a very essential drawing that you need in order to explain how the details of the garment are made, and how they will be produced. And you usually have that along in your lookbook or your portfolio to show that. Here is an example of it done on computer. You first learn how to draw these by hand, so you can get a niche of how they're done by hand and find marker and pencil. And then you go on to learn how to do it on Creative Suite, which is you have different programs that can allow you to do flats by computer. Or if you have a program that's already embedded in your computer that you can do flats in practice. Your flat is a representation of what your croquis looks like. It actually shows very detailed stitchings and detailed opening and closures for your actual flat. This allows somebody to be able to read it. And just to explain, a flat is something that goes into a actual tech pack. A tech pack is something that if you become a very prominent designer and you are making multiple clothes and you need somebody to actually make them, you go to a production team, you set up a tech pack. It explains everything step by step. The actual flat actually has measurements and explanations to the side that show whether the sleeve is like a certain amount of inches, the pocket on it is a certain amount of inches. It gives all the explanations in order for that actual production team to make the clothing. So what we're going to do is a fun lesson on just doing a flat by hand, so you can practice doing it and adding it to your portfolio. After we did a lesson before on how to start your portfolios, and when you get those together, you'll have like a little booklet on something that you're proud of, that you've come up with a cohesive collection and different flat drawings on it. Okay, so when we begin, we need materials. A number 2 pencil, you need a sketchbook, or you need 8.5 by 11 sheets of sketch paper, or just plain paper would be good because we're just doing some fun sketches. You will need a ruler, 12-inch rulers, okay, or you can get one of these see-through rulers. I use this because I actually have a lot of sewing work to do, and this is good for doing patterns. A French curve. You don't necessarily have to have a measurement on a French curve. I have a measurement French curve and a regular one. A Sharpie pen. You want it to be a thin pen. Mine is a little thicker, but it's the way you handle it with the ruler and how you're going to go over the pencil. So when we get started, I'm going to show you how to do a skirt and a top and a pant and a top, so that you actually get started with something basic, but something that would be easy. I'm going to fold my 8.5 by 11 sheet and have a middle. What we're going to do is create the flat by the neckline. Everything's going to be to the middle, so you're going to have everything when you pattern it out is symmetrical. So you always drape one side, you always draw one side, but we're going to do that, and that's how you also do it on computer, because you copy and paste and you do it side by side so you have it evenly. So once we do that, we're going to actually go over it in pen. So we're going to start with the pant and the top. So starting with the middle, you're going to start with your neckline. It depends on how much you want your neckline to be. I'm going to do a small neckline, and then I'll show you what it is after that. So I might do like a 1/2 inch from the middle of that fold to do a neckline. And when I say a 1/2 inch, I usually start maybe 3 inches down from the top of the paper, so I have enough room for the pant and the top, okay? So 3 inches down. And this is just actually to start learning how to do it by hand. It's so much easier when you do it by computer. So when you do a little round out, if you have to do it by hand, let's say we do a 1/2 inch round out on each side of the neck, you might want to take that French curve on your curviest part, and you're going to actually form your curve really nicely, okay? So it almost looks like a smiley face. So it's just very small. That's how I want my neckline to be for my front, and then I'll show you how to three-dimensional it to the back later. So next are your shoulders. When I come up with the shoulders, I want to come out at least a ½ inch for the shoulders, but you're going to come at a slight slant with the shoulders, okay? Very slight slant. And you want to make sure on each side that your slant is coming in the same. Like I said, it doesn't have to be, like I tell all my students, it doesn't have to be perfect, you're just trying. So there you go with the slant. Now we want to form the armhole, but we're not quite putting in a sleeve yet. If I'm going to do an armhole, I'm going to come from the top and I'm going to draw like a straight line about 5/8. And then I'm going to do a little round part. And I'm going to show you when I drew that straight line how that armhole is going to come out, so you can see how to draw the ruler down in half, because I'm going to go step by step with you. And then how you round it off into an arm, okay? So here you go. You're going to come straight down 5/8, that straight line. Then you're going to do like a little crescent rounding for that arm. You can erase the straight line after, because you're going to clean this flat up a little bit, okay? So once you have that, you're going to form the shirt on the sides. Well, since this is we're going to do a man's shirt, you can come straight down t-shirt about 2 inches down the sides. And then you can draw the bottom out. Now it's up to you if you want to leave this sleeveless or if you want to make it more of a sporty t-shirt. So you're going to come down on the sides and then you're going to have it like that, okay? Then I do want to add a sleeve. So I'm going to do about 3/4 for my sleeve to come down, a nice size sleeve. And you could do a long sleeve, you could do a short sleeve. I'm going to show you my sleeve. But you got to come down on the angle of how you're doing it and then connect it back up to your arm. And I'm going to show you that in a second, the sleeve. And then we're going to go on to the pant. So here you go. Your sleeve is showing right here, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to measure out, which I did 3/4, come down, and it's going to be shorter here because you're connecting it to the underarm, okay, and following through the side seam. So I'm going to do that on the same side as the other one. And you can pause here if you have to catch up. So once we have that in, now we're going to form the pant, and then we'll add in the detail, and then I'll show you how to do the pin. So with the pant, I actually want to make it, let's say we're going to do a drawstring pant. I want to make it this about a little smaller width and give it a feel of a cinched look, like how elastic comes in. So you're going to actually draw just 1/8 off of the shirt and come down and do a band. So what I usually do is like this. So this has like a little band. It's just straight across. It's about 1/4, and it's 1/8 coming in from the shirt. And then I drew 2 little dots to show where the drawstring is gonna go. So from there, I'm gonna kind of add some little lines in there to show how it kind of has a cinched look in it for the elastic band. Kind of gives like a cinched look to it, okay? Then I'm going to form the pant out, and it's very important that when you do the pant, you start with one side of an angle And since this is a drawstring pant, we're going to do a straight leg drawstring pant, because later on you can get into learning how to do more of the elastic build. So this drawstring pant, I'm going to form out like almost a triangle. So I'm going to come out a little bit and come out a little bit here. You determine how wide you want that leg to be on each side, and you do that. And from there, from that point of width, you come up and form another little triangle that surfaces up here as a crotch area. So I'm going to do that now. Start to form your lines. Now when we do the skirt and the top, it's the exact same thing. And I'm going to go over that in a little. But for now, I'm going to show you just a little part of how you're going to go around it with the pen and put all your little examples in it. Okay. And all of the things you need to show in your flat. And everything is a process to make it look a certain way. It's not like your lines are going to fall perfect the first time. You have to keep going over it. So here is the flat, but you also, in a flat, it's important to put stitches. Like in a t-shirt, you usually have a hem or a cover stitch. So you'll put these little stitches on top, stitches for the hem on the bottom. Wherever you think that you might have stitches, or the collar here where you'll have a little rib look with stitches, that's where you're going to do it. You're going to form the collar, and you can put the little rib look in it with the lines to show that it's ribbed, and have a stitch go around it. And wherever you have stitches, and then I'm going to show you how to put the pin in, just like it is in that example I gave you earlier. And then you can practice and do that, okay? So here you go, like that. So once you have the pin, it is important you take your ruler. You have to make your line straight when you're doing it. When you touch on the pin, you have to be light on the pin, because you don't want it to make those pink dot movements in your line. You have to go down and come up clean. So here you go. We're starting with the ruler. You have to take the ruler, come up clean. You don't want it to have a dot spot at the ends of it. So I'm going to do a little bit on one side, and then we're going to move on to the actual skirt and top. So and then when you're doing that, you're going to take your ruler, and for where your stitches are, you're going to put these little dashes. So you're going to have these lines and these little dashes, and you're going to continue to do that throughout the whole flat, so that it actually has a dark look like this, okay? And everything gets filled in, all right? Moving to the next one, here is your blank sheet. Say you're gonna do a little top for a lady and a skirt. You want to begin with the same thing, a neckline. So I'm going to do a scoop. Well, let's do a V-neck, because I want to do something different. If we do a V-neck, we need to start with the V-neck. And then in the way you actually do a V-neck from the back, you do like a little scoop for the back and the neck, okay? So if we're doing a V-neck, I'm going to come down. And then you want to build your shoulders, which I said is a 1/2 inch slant, which you can do. I'm going to do this on this side. So say you want to add a puffy sleeve or some kind of sleeve in there. So you're going to follow the same things, but with the side seam, you're going to take your French curve to put in your side seam. You're going to add a little curve to the woman's shirt, okay? And if you have to do it freehand at first, it's good to bring your French curve in to show how you're bringing it in on the sides, okay? So you're gonna bring it in a little bit. And if I wanna add a more intricate puff sleeve, I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna go over it with the ruler. So I'm gonna draw it in first. And if you have to pause to catch up, please do that. And then I'm gonna draw this in. And then I'll go on to the skirt. So here you go. So you're gonna draw on your puff sleeve. This is all practicing flats. And the ruler must be used in this. The skirt's gonna come in a little bit, 1/8 on each side from the waistline of the shirt. And you could do about 1/8 on that waistline of the skirt and have a waistband, which I'm showing here. And then you're gonna take it, this skirt's gonna be an A-line skirt, so you can actually, A-line means it comes out like a shape of an A. And this is a slight A-line. So when we do that, now we're not showing the backs of the flats, but this will be something you can practice on as you're doing these flats on your own and making your own flats. And then you'll fill that in, and then I'll show you how to go about putting in the pin marks with that right quick. Okay. So you may have a hem stitch at the bottom, and you'll take your ruler and draw your dashes in. Decide how long you want your dashes to be that show the stitches. This is actually a representation of the stitches. And then decide whether you have a frontal opening or a back opening to it, to the actual skirt. Because some of your garments may not call for showing stitches because it might be lined. So here's some stuff I put in mine to show the stitches. So as you practice it, you'll get better and better at your line movement, but it's important that you use an actual ruler for all the straight lines to make it accurate. So when you're filling this in, for the puff sleeve, I would take a French curve and your ruler to fill in all of your marks. And then you can put those little lines that show, you can also show a little movement. Now, flats don't actually have to be so structured. They can be movable, they can move to the side, just like your croquis do, but they have to have a more detailed look where it describes where everything is going. And since I've been doing flats for a long time, I can actually fill them in really fast and then do them on computer. So, as you see, if you get a finer pencil, I just wanted it thicker so you could see, you'll start to fill it in and practice how to use your pen so that you're not marking in dots. It doesn't leave these big bold dots when you finish the endings of everything, okay? So as you complete these and finish these, then you can go on to maybe picking a fabric and coloring that fabric in, because when you finish some fashion boards, you want to make sure your flats, you can add a little color to it or actually insert in the computer your fabric that you've scanned in the computer so you can give a feel for where is the pattern going on the flat for. So those are going to be your exercises to do. And then if you're doing a portfolio, then you can actually do flats for those croquis and then complete that and put that in your portfolio book. All right, thank you for the lesson. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.